everyone. I'm just going to give it a couple of moments for a couple more people to hop on, so we'll have a little banter and chit chat. And what we're going to talk about today is, what the cost is when we grow up as the family scapegoat, the black sheep of the family, what the cost is to us. But more importantly, as you know, I really like to focus on solutions. So what does it take to heal our heart and soul? Because let's be real, if you've grown up as the person who is targeted as the black sheep of the family, the family scapegoat, that started a very long time ago, 99.9% chance that started inside of the first 5, if not 7 years of your life. It started when you were young. And the consequences have been very severe. And even though to some degree we can be aware that we've been paying a price, because some of it is just so freaking glaringly obvious, we're not always super clear on the real freaking cost to us. And I recently put out a YouTube video and did a whole thing on dysfunctional family survival rules. So if you didn't catch that, it's sitting on my YouTube channel. You can go catch that. Fundamentally, what this conversation is about is we're honing in specifically on the family scapegoat, because that's a big one and very personal. I'll be honest with you, I was the family scapegoat, very personal to me, but not just me, the vast majority of the clients that I work with and the people who are attracted to the work that I do. And I think there's a very specific reason for that. I think that those of us who have been targeted as the family scapegoat, more often than not, tend to have been reared in not just highly dysfunctional, but, narcissistic families, relatively. Some of us more than others, for sure, right? These are, there's a spectrum here, but we tend to have been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse our whole entire lives. And it is also my belief that we are the highly empathic soul. We are more than likely the potential light-working soul within our dysfunctional, toxic, destructive, narcissistic family unit. Hence why we have this particular soul contract, sacred contract, soul path and journey to walk out with our family of origin. And it's freaking excruciating. And we pay some major heavy-duty prices along the way with all of that. But the good news is, if we can get our ass, our heart, our soul on a very serious, real, and effective healing and recovery journey, when we step into our power, look out. We are the change makers. We are the difference makers. This is the reason why we, I believe, a number of reasons, not least of which the implications of spiritual warfare, the reason why the essence, the calibration, the vibration that we land on the planet with, that we may not be aware that we land here with, is so disturbing. Even as a little one, even as a toddler, is so disturbing to the highly narcissistic people. Lots I could say about that, but I'll try not to go down too many rabbit holes and be relatively succinct here. But that calibration, that vibration, even when we're really young, is very disruptive and disturbing to the high spectrum destructive narcissist, or the really, really unconscious, traumatized, wounded, sick, mentally ill. Sometimes, we deal with mental illnesses in our families. Like, those people find who we are and what we carry, even when we're really young, to be a real affront, right? And we're just going through life like we just showed up with our high empathy nature and our great big heart and all the love that we carry, and we're projecting all our good stuff onto everyone from the time we're really young, and we're shocked to be on the receiving end of their projecting all of their disowned shadow, their pain, their trauma, their unresolved issues, all the shit and garbage that they're busy doing to everyone, they project onto us, and we're like, what the hey, right? So needless to say, when you grow up in this kind of a dynamic, I'm a little distracted, I'll tell you why here. When we grow up in this kind of a dynamic, we pay a freaking price, right? But when we get about the business of taking care of us and taking care of our soul, We are here, my friends, for impact, and that is the good news. And that is, I want to have a real conversation around these issues with you today, and I want to have a real conversation with you around what the good news is and what we need to do to heal our heart and soul from all this nonsense that we've lived with our families of origin, so that we can get about the business of living our best lives as our best self. I really believe that is, the work that I do. Yes, I am a life coach who specializes in codependency and narcissistic abuse recovery, and that is the sign in my window, because that is what I specialize in. That is what I'm really freaking good at. But again, it's a very, real conversation here inside of my private community. And the real truth of it is, once you come in the door and we get you on the path of the healing and recovery from the codependency and the narcissistic abuse and the adult child syndrome and all of that, 9 out of 10 of you, if you aren't already aware, you find out that you are full-blown empaths. 9 out of 10 of you, if you aren't already aware, find out that you're actually here with a mission and a purpose that has to do with being a light worker, that has to do with putting a dent in the darkness that is so freaking pervasive on our planet today more than ever. Like, look around, all hands on deck now, right? Like, we need help, right? So we have a responsibility, no matter what we have lived as the black sheep of the family and as the family scapegoat, we have a responsibility as these high-vibing, highly empathic, light-working, potentially light-working, because that's not a given, we have to choose, but potentially light-working souls on this planet. We have a responsibility to take all that garbage and that crap and turn it into gold, so that we can use it in the service of ourselves first. That's not selfish, that's real. That's what recovery and healing require. In order for us to have anything of value to give anyone else, we have to be the carriers of it first. So we take all that shit, we turn it into gold for ourselves first, so that we can walk out into the world and start making a difference and start having an impact. And that can sound like really overwhelming if we're in a place where we're still being targeted by a partner, a spouse, our parents, our siblings, our boss, our neighbors, our friends, or all of the above. It can sound really overwhelming. On top of it, you want me to change the world? Well, the good news is you already carry everything that you need. We just need to get you moving in the direction of healthy, heal, whole, and thriving, so that progressively so, just by being you fully, it gets to be that easy. Just by being you, you can be the channeler of the light and the love that this world is starved for. And who am I to make this kind of a difference? Well, let me tell you, we are all needed, all hands on deck. We are all needed. Who are you not to? Who are you not to? So that is my riff introduction on the conversation we're going to be having today. I'm just going to say hello to whoever's hopped on here. Sarah, welcome. Sylvia, welcome. Nice to see you. Sandra, I said hey to my sister Allie. Welcome. Guys, do me a favor and drop me a comment and let me know whether or not you identify as being the family scapegoat or the black sheep of the family. Let me know if you identify as that, and whether or not you are already aware that you are a highly empathic soul here potentially to walk out a light working mission. It's just a question of saying, I am ready, I am available, please show me how. Drop me a comment and let me know whether or not this resonates with you. Being the family scapegoat, the cost. What has it cost you? By definition, scapegoating is really where a dysfunctional family has assigned the role of scapegoat to one individual. Now, I've given you my opinion based on my personal and professional experience and, my particular spiritual beliefs about how it all is going down and all of it. Who gets chosen as the family scapegoat more often than not, right? In a dysfunctional family system, a sick family system, which is the vast majority of us have come from some level of dysfunction. Everyone plays a role. And I talked about this, as I was saying before, in one of my YouTube videos that I uploaded, I don't know, I think it was last week or, a week and a half ago or whatever. So it's sitting on my YouTube channel. Survival rules in the dysfunctional family. So if you want to know more about that, you can go and watch that on my YouTube video. But suffice to say, typically we have the chief enabler, also known as the family martyr, but the chief enabler, the hero, the lost child, more often than not the middle child, not always, but more often than not, the joker or family mascot, and then the family scapegoat, right? So scapegoating by definition is where, forgive me, I have a little piece of cocoa in my mouth, forgive me. Scapegoating is by definition where the family keeps up appearances, does all the things, everyone's playing their role perfectly that they either took on at a really young age or were assigned at a really young age. Everyone fits right into the slot of the sick family dysfunctional dynamic, right? The system. And it's all about keeping up appearances, making it all look good on the outside, even to like the extended family members might be quite unaware of who's who in the family and what's really going on. So all of that's going on the surface and, from the outside looking in. Meanwhile, there is this unconscious family agreement that it is okay and acceptable to target one individual. One individual gets to be the target for unwarranted negative behavior. Unprovoked, undeserved, disproportionate contempt and disdain, neglect, abandonment, and all manner of abuse, cruel criticism, you name it. The person who's chosen to be the family scapegoat fundamentally operates as the dumping ground and the garbage bin for all of the other family members' unresolved issues, undealt with shadow, right? 95% of the game of life is subconscious. When we're talking about high spectrum destructive narcissists as an example, we all have shadow. We all have a shadow that we need to work with and deal with. A high spectrum destructive narcissist is quite divorced from their shadow, right? The split in the psyche is so severe that even accessing it, they just are fundamentally constitutionally incapable of the self-reflection required to even go near that stuff. Therefore, they have to project it in order to unburden themselves from, like if you've ever, been on the receiving end of someone accusing you of doing things that are so far removed from who you are or anything you'd ever even consider doing, and we're talking about, a destructive narcissist in your life, you can pretty much guarantee that they're doing it, right? Like I've been accused of doing things that like anyone who knows me knows I would never even, like my mind doesn't even work that way, right? By people who were doing the very things that they were accusing me of doing, right? They project their disowned shadow, their disowned self. So the family scapegoat, that's an extreme example of, how these dynamics work, but the family scapegoat ends up being the dumping ground for all of that stuff. Further, they end up being the one taking the blame and the responsibility for everything that goes wrong in the family. All the things that are wrong, all the relationship problems that are happening, all of the things that aren't working out. It's because of this one bad kid. If this one kid weren't so bad, so broken, so problematic, such a handful, so this, not enough that, whatever, then everything would be fine, right? So not only are we the target, are we the dumping ground and garbage bin, but we are also to blame and responsible for things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. Like nothing to do with us. But it's a game of, as long as we're focused on what's wrong with them, we don't have to look at us. Like, I'll give you an example from my own life. I'm 5 years old. My mother disappeared from my life when I was a toddler, still in diapers. So, you know, I was pretty young, 2, 3 years old, I think. I don't even really remember, but I'm guesstimating she just vanished. My father's hooked up with a high spectrum destructive narcissist. He's a full-blown chronic alcoholic. I'm 5, right? I've been, you know, carted across the country as he's chased after this new, very sick relationship. There's all kinds of chaos, violence, nonsense going on. I'm 5, right? In the midst of all of that insanity, I get carted off to a therapist to find out what's wrong with me. And listen, I've done a shit ton of healing and recovery work today at 51 years old, so I can laugh at these things that aren't very funny. I can laugh because it's so next level cuckoo land crazy when I think about it. There was a time when it was, you know, I couldn't laugh about it because the pain was very real. I've healed that pain. Never think that I am coming from a place of not having compassion. If you have not, if that triggers you and you've had a similar experience and you're still feeling the pain, I know the pain. The good news is you're in the right place. I also know the solution. Got lots of tools to help you heal that stuff, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is I'm freaking 5. In the first 5 years of my life, all kinds of insanity has been going on, not least of which my mother went poof into the ethers. And now I've got this crazy, insane freaking woman who, if she isn't doing battle with my drunk father, is fully targeting me. And they're taking me to a therapist to see what's wrong with me, right? It's like I often say to clients, and I think I even have a meme out there that says, don't ask what's wrong with you, ask what the hell happened to you. Like, that's a much better question to ask, right? They didn't have the capacity to stand still long enough to look at themselves and consider that maybe what was going on with them was what was wrong with the kid. No, instead, the kid was to blame. The kid happened to be me in this case, but the kid was to blame. The kid was responsible. So that's just one of hundreds, if not thousands, of examples I could give you from my own life, and you all have your own examples too. If you're you know, on this live, you can pull from your own life examples of the insanity of being the family scapegoat, and not only being targeted with all manner of cruel criticism and abuse and neglect and abandonment, being blamed for all of it as well. Like, it's bad enough you're on the receiving end of all of that, and then to add insult to injury, it's your fault, right? And no matter what, you are the problem. For the longest time, well into my own healing and recovery journey, thank God it's not an issue for me today, but you might relate to this. My real sore spot and Achilles tendon was someone showing up in my life, professionally, friend, romantic, family, whoever, showing up in my life, behaving in a way that I rationally, logically knew was clearly fully inappropriate, and then blaming it on me. And I was suffering this mortal wound time and time and time again until I really did my own deep healing and recovery work in a myriad of ways. I would suffer this mortal wound, like right into my mid to late 30s. And I knew in my head, they show up in my life and they behave inappropriately, but the most painful part of this is they blame their inappropriate behavior on me. And the reason that wounded me so mortally was because that's what I had lived fully on many levels with every adult figure in the first 7 years of my life. And that, my friends, is where it all begins. So what ends up happening as the family scapegoat, as a result of being victimized in this fashion, we don't have to spend our lives living like victims, but we have to get real and get honest with ourselves. The truth is, some shit's gone on and we've been victimized, right? Now we can take our power back and heal all that stuff, but let's be real, right? So as a result of that, and being blamed and made responsible for all this stuff that was going on long before we even arrived on the scene, quite frankly, more often than not. We really, really struggle to develop our own personal identity, like a solid sense of who we are not. Boundaries are a big problem for us, internal and external, because no one's ever had any boundaries with us. We really struggle, like we're seriously handicapped in the department of developing any, not only a real solid identity and sense of self, but any sense of self-worth or self-esteem, because we are steeped like a tea bag in this toxic, sick family dynamic. So the consequences in our adult life is, no matter how proficient we may be, and you may be like I was real good at making it look all good on the outside, like obsessive compulsive with regards to work, with regards to how clean and good my home looked, with regards to my fitness level, with regards to my appearance. Like it was obsessive compulsive next level, making it all look good, right? The perfectionism through the roof. I turned my notifications off and I'm still getting them. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on there. But, you know, when we're living from that place, we're divorced from our authentic core. We're seeking approval and validation from the outside world, typically from people, places, and environments that don't have it to give. Because all we can attract is what we are a vibrational match to, what is a vibrational match and resonance to what we carry inside. And if we don't carry the acceptance, validation, approval, sense of self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence on the inside, at our core, we're just going to keep attracting what is a match to what we're lacking, and what is a match to our original family of origin wounding until we heal that stuff, right? So the consequences are we grow up with no real identity or sense of self. We really struggle, like, who the hell am I? How do I fit into this world? I don't belong with my family. They want me around, but they don't. I'm part of the family, but I'm not. You know, they put up with me, they tolerate me, and, you know, they seem obligated, but, you know, couldn't care less, obviously, about my best interest. You know, like I serve a purpose, and that's because they need somewhere to project their fucking garbage, right? So they want me around, but they don't, right? I don't fit in. I don't fit in with them. And because I never felt like I fit in with them, I really don't feel like I fit in anywhere. And I don't know who I am, and I'm, you know, starved for validation and approval because I've never gotten it, so I don't even know how to give it to myself, right? I'm really going out into the world so deprived that I am like really just a bright shining light for predators of all kinds. And then we add to it our high empathy nature. We carry a vibration, a calibration that just amplifies that, you know, light in terms of being a magnet for a predator type personality. So consequences, you know, we land in adulthood. No one has given us any guidance, any, you know, real sort of structured, you know, this is how you not only survive, but have the best shot of thriving in life. Let me reflect back to you all the good stuff that you carry so that you know it, so that you own it, so that you can walk into the world carrying it and attract more of it to yourself. None of that's happening for us, right? We have to figure all of that out on our own. And, you know, one of the other major consequences as a result of those consequences is, as I said, we just continue to attract more of the same. So insult to injury to insult to injury to insult to injury, we just continue to attract more and more of what is a vibrational, energetic, emotional, psychological, spiritual, light or dark, spiritual match to the original family of origin wounding and trauma. and we keep living out those patterns. I did it in my own life. I healed it in my own life. I do this work with my clients every day. I assure you, even if it's not obvious to you today, there are deep-seated connections to the pain that you are living today and the original family of origin wounding and trauma. And it's not always obvious. You know, sometimes our parents were so well-intended, you know, really adept at making it all look good on the surface, that it can be hard to spot because it wasn't overt abuse necessarily. But make no mistake, if you are on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse in your adult life, chances are good. And if you identify as being the family scapegoat or the black sheep of the family, you know, there were some things that were set up in the first 7 years of life in you on a subconscious level, in terms of your programming, in terms of your wiring, that's causing you to continue to live out these patterns. So these are the consequences. Sorry, I have to have some more of my cacao. So freaking good. I love this stuff. I so love this stuff. Consequences, you know, of even if we are high functioning and we're really adept at making it look good, and we've got all of this empathy and compassion, and we're givers, and we're out there working our freaking faces off, personally and professionally, to make a good life for ourselves and anyone else that we give a shit about. The reality is there is an undercurrent of absolute runaway low self-esteem and lack of self-worth that causes us to just hit these ceilings over and over and over again in our lives, financially, professionally, the quality of friendships we attract, you know, our living environments and conditions, the experiences that we continue to have with our family of origin, what we experience with the people that we work with, etc. This undercurrent of low self-esteem and low self-worth sets us up to be operating, to be playing the game of life at a much lower disempowered level than what we otherwise could be. And we pay a big price for that, professionally, financially, personally, and many of us, even with regards to our physical health, as well as our mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual health, right? We pay great, big, huge prices for having been the family scapegoat. And the longer we go, not having done our personal work, not having addressed our issues, the more we continue to pay the price over and over and over again. I don't know if you guys can identify with this, but, you know, for me, my number one core values, like, if you don't know what your top 3 core values are, you should. Do the work, find out what your top 3 core values are. So mine are, number 1, freedom, growth, and courage. Those are my top 3 core values. So freedom being my number 1 core value. At a very young age, I just wanted to, you know, put a pack on my back and get out of Dodge. Partially driven because I needed to get the hell away from my family of origin, for sure, but also I just needed to, you know, like, breathe the fresh air of that level of freedom, right? What was interesting in retrospect, I realized at a certain point, because I spent the vast majority of my 20s pretty much working to save enough money to put a pack on my back to go away for a month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever it was, right? I'd go away, I'd come back, I'd go away, I'd come back. At a certain point, after doing these big trips a number of times, I started to realize that it was fascinating that whenever I would go away, to a large degree, I would get better. I would feel better in my own skin. What I didn't recognize at the time, because it had been my norm my whole life as the family scapegoat, we live with anxiety and don't even know it because it's been there our whole freaking lives. It's just our normal setting. I was 7 years into a full-blown, very serious healing and recovery journey, walking through my house one day when it dawned on me, oh my God, that feeling I've had my whole life isn't there, and it was anxiety. It was so my norm, I didn't even know I had it, right? But at a certain point of going away and coming back and going away and coming back, I started to realize, wow, when I go away, I get better. I didn't have a language at the time in my 20s to recognize the specifics of it, but what it was the anxiety would diminish. The anxiety would go away to a large degree. I would start to feel better in my own skin, calmer, more grounded, healthier, more at peace, more spiritually connected. And then I'd go home to Montreal and I'd be exposed to my family of origin, and inside of like minutes, I'd be right back to that anxiety-riddled person, reacting, performing, people-pleasing, trying to get it all right, fully freaking affected, fully freaking affected. And I'd go away and I'd come back, and I'd go away and I'd come back. And every time it became more and more clear to me that, wow, when I extricate myself from this environment, from these relationships, from this energetic container, from this field, I get well. Even prior to doing any real healing and recovery work, I just got better. And when I go back, I get sick fast, like inside of minutes of exposure. I liken it to, growing up in a gas chamber. And you finally exit the gas chamber and you're breathing fresh air, like you're gonna get healthy pretty quick, right? And then you go back into the gas chamber and what happens? It doesn't take long, right? It's the same freaking thing, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, energetically, and eventually physically. It is the same thing. So when we talk about solutions, if you've grown up as the family scapegoat, how do you heal? I was on the phone with a gorgeous woman yesterday who's really hitting a wall with, after 45 years of being targeted by certain individuals. There's always, those specific bullies, but then there's the enablers, and right? So, like, targeted by the family at large, but there's always like the real, bullies, let's just put it that way, like the ones who were really, whether it's aggressive, passive aggressive, overt, covert, you know the ones, right? The ringleaders, right? The ones who, really, nobody wants to rock the boat with this individual. Let's just keep the peace at all costs, even if it means we got to throw you, the scapegoat, under the bus again, over and over and over again, right? Well, we get to a point, hopefully, by the time we're in our, midlife, if not, sooner. It'd be nice if it happened sooner, for some of us, where we get freaking tired of being run over by that bus. No, I know I got tired of being run over that bus. I got really freaking sick and tired of it, right? And, the drag is that we actually have to entertain the idea as to whether or not we have to divorce ourselves from these people permanently. That's a real thing that we have to consider. Now, as a life coach specializing in these issues, working with, countless people, and many of which identify as having played this role within their family, the truth is we don't always have to divorce ourselves from these relationships entirely. I was on a call with a client, a couple hours ago, who's, having these challenges and these struggles as she is doing the work of her own personal healing and recovery. And I highly doubt she's going to have to divorce herself from these relationships. Sometimes we do. That's just what's true. Sometimes we don't. It fully depends on you and the people involved and the circumstances. These are not black or white issues. In my case, I did. And it didn't happen in one foul swoop. It was over a period of a number of years. But the more I healed, the more I recovered, the healthier I got, the more I stepped into my power, the less possible I was able to continue in any of these relationships. Like really the almost, not quite the last nail in the coffin, but almost the last nails in the coffin, where I had to stand up and tell the truth about a pedophile in order to protect the next generation of children that were coming along. Because I was well into a healing and recovery journey for real, I was able to do that. Now the fallout was the end of those relationships, and that's been over a decade. Like that's not everybody. That's my story, you know, and we do these things with great care and great caution. I was fully supported. I was deeply immersed in 12-step recovery. I was deeply immersed in therapy with a therapist who knew what she was doing. I was involved with a treatment center going through deep dive recovery work on these issues specifically. I had a kick-ass 12-step sponsor who had a kick-ass 12-step sponsor. Between them, they had an excess of 50 years of recovery. Like, I was well surrounded and supported. So don't hear, you know, the highlights of my story and think that you just run off and do these things. We must do these things, especially as the family scapegoat, where we are really surrounded by expert support. Because make no mistake, these are life or death issues. These are life or death issues. You know, those of you who have been through the fire know just, you know, to what degree these can be life or death issues, right? So we have to support ourselves. We have to, you know, give ourselves everything that we need to be able to walk the path, whatever the path is for us. And if your story is more severe and more extreme, where you have to actually consider the possibility of amputating some people in your life, or you have to stand up and speak the truth in such a way that you're going to be the one who's going to be shunned and cast aside and smeared, and you're going to have to go through that entire grieving process, fully surrendering to the reality of what it is to be an orphan, even though you've always been an orphan as the family scapegoat. You're an orphan inside the family, and now you gotta, right, heal and grieve as the orphan outside of the family. Like, this is the real deal. Like, this is, you know, we're not talking about lightweight stuff here. This is what it's like for a lot of us, right? And then there's those of us, like many of my clients, who just need to learn how to set really healthy boundaries with people and be willing to back off and go low contact for a while, or maybe even no contact for a while. It can be very helpful for some folks to experience what it is to live in your absence in order to appreciate your presence if ever you decide to reintroduce yourself into the dynamic. With boundaries, you get to change, you get to heal, you get to recover, and you get to set new rules and new standards of what it means to be in a relationship with you. Guess what? You don't get to do that to me anymore. Guess what? If you continue to speak to me that way, it's over. I'm done. You won't be welcome back in my home. I won't be coming back here. You won't have access to my kids. Whatever it is, it boils down to making decisions in favor of loving you more, loving you first, getting yourself onto whatever healing and recovery path is most appropriate for you. I, for one, went all out. I went all out. If it was there and it was available for me, I was in it. In like Flynn. I needed the full deal, right? Not everybody does. So deciding what is most appropriate for you, taking radical responsibility for yourself and your life and your happiness and your health and your well-being, and deciding me more, me first. You don't get to. I am not the family scapegoat anymore, and it has been well over a decade since I have played that role. Why? Because I have fully extricated myself. And in doing so, my wellness has gone through the roof. My personal empowerment has gone through the roof, to the point where I am able to actually help, serve, empower, support others in doing that for themselves as well, right? That's, like I said, what was required for me. For others, there's more of a happy medium road where you figure it out one day at a time. And maybe, like I said, pulling back. Either way, radical responsibility, choosing you first, getting on the path of healing and recovery, supporting yourself no matter what it takes. No matter what it takes, supporting yourself. Learning how to love yourself, doing the uncomfortable work of healing and recovery, exercising what it is to set boundaries when the stakes are not so high, so that when the stakes are high, you know how to do it. You've developed some muscle. Putting all of that into practice. Living a life where you're walking on a foundation of extreme self-care. Daily. Day in, day out. Is it easy? Nothing easy about it. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's our job to do what's required to heal our heart and soul. To tell ourselves the truth about what we have lived, what we are living, and what we are likely to live moving forward if we continue in these relationships the way that they're going, right? And to make some decisions around all of that. It is our responsibility. When we were kids, we didn't have a choice. We're adults now. We have a choice. My friends, I hope you got some value out of that today. If you related, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you would like me to dive into a little bit deeper that came up today, feel free to drop some comments below. If you are interested in learning more about working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, it's good timing. I have a group starting next Wednesday night. So if you want some more information on that, I'll drop a link in the comments below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one breakthrough strategy session with me. We can get on the phone, have a conversation, see if we're a good fit for working together. The deadline to join next week's group is Thursday, end of business day this Thursday. That's the deadline. If you want to get into that group, you've got about 48 hours to make a decision. So feel free to reach out and we'll get on a call and go from there. Whether it's the Freedom Class, 12-step recovery, like what would be appropriate would be ACOA, CODA, Al-Anon, happening in church basements and community centers all over the world. They're very much about attraction, not promotion, but I have to tell you, there are options and resources that are very, very powerful for folks who have grown up as the family scapegoat. So, I wouldn't be doing any favors if I didn't mention those options are available to you, and they're free. By the way, if you want to go to the next level, the Freedom Class is there for you. There are plenty of other options available. We live in a day and an age where there's no shortage of options. So figure out what works best for you here and now. Get on the path. Radical responsibility, extreme self-care, radical self-love, so that you can start living your best life as your best self. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. Much love. Know your value, and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Bye for now.